What's up, everybody? We are back with another live edition of the Ad Podcast, broadcasting from beautiful Miami Beach at the Fontainebleau at the Possible Show. And we have the man, the myth, the legend, Albert Thompson, the director of digital for Walton, Isaacson. Thanks so much for coming on the show, man.
100%, man.
So, what's up, man? What's going on with you? What have you been seeing? What are some of the takeaways so far?
Look, man. I mean, if I were to look at all the macroeconomic factors, a friend of mine put it very, very bluntly. He's like, "This feels like a controlled demolition." So when I look across all the sectors, not only just advertising, media, doesn't matter if it's real estate, crypto, you start to see, a shift in power, a shift in wealth. And I think people really need to look at the orientation of where the money is going to start flowing, how things are going to get regrounded. It's kind of like the reset that should have happened during COVID. Everyone got buoyed, protected. So you have players that are here that should have been gone. Now they're probably going to be gone officially. So I think, that's the thing that I'm probably tracking at the biggest level. I think relative to our industry, it's going to be very interesting. We're seeing a lot of people pull out of things they didn't want to do in the first place. From whether it's multicultural, DEI, whether it's a business unit that they bought or acquired because they felt like they need to. This is a business where there's so much me too to do the same thing the next player is doing.
A lot of bandwagoning.
To try to level up to them or outflank them. And now they're like, no, we didn't want to do that in the first place. So we're done. Let's get out of this. So I think there's going to be a hard reset in terms of what people are going to move forward with, getting back to actual business principles that are going to matter. They're going to be sustainable. I remember posting on LinkedIn a couple weeks ago, like the fugazi in this business is finally going to start to wear off in it. So it's a series between the shifts happening in the industry, between the fortune list rolling, because it always rolls every 20 years anyway, but it's really a hard roll now, as well as just the immersion of everything artificial intelligence. Well, a lot of people talk about it. I don't think they have an understanding of how it's going to be programmed in everything. It's going to be like water and flood. You can look anywhere, you're going to find it. You're going to find a water stain. It's going to be an AI stain of what it's remapping.
Wow.
And I don't think people really understand how significant. It's part of the reason I started training around the conversation, because people need to almost remap how they think about everything they do in an automation, AI agent sort of world where the need for resourcing changes, what its value prop is going to be or needs to be. So yeah, that's why I call it a hard reset. That's why our boy called it a controlled demolition. I like the controlled demolition term better.
I like that.
Yeah.
So, for marketers out there that are trying to get into AI as an individual, to build their personal brand, to upskill, to stay relevant, what are the most practical daily uses that you're doing to leverage AI in your own work, the stuff that you're doing for your personal brand? I see you pumping content out like a machine. Like, what are some practical tips that people could do to start up leveling their AI skills from personal brand building, stuff like that you do so well?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing, people got to stop looking at AI as a tool and looking at it as an employee you hired, or because you didn't have to hire an employee. That's why they talk about AI agents. That's very different, meaning how you going to onboard it, how are you going to trade it? How are you going to get outcomes? And how are you going to measure its contribution, but knowing they don't take vacation days? And I think that's a totally different mental reset. I think the other thing is most companies are supply chain companies. Like brand marketing is a supply chain business. People think it's an advertising, but no, it's a supply chain. We got to make a product, we got to ship it, we got to stock it, put a price on it, sell it at retail. Start looking at areas in the supply chain or value chain that can be optimized or improved. So let's take creative. Creative has always been a coveted class, developed by independent minds. Now AI has the ability to somewhat mirror it or accelerate it. So AI gives you the ability to dynamically create iterations in minutes, where a creative department that would take 3 months, including approvals. So the ability of having more iterations in creative allows you to connect with more persona types. That's an easy adaptation. People just don't want to do it because they'd rather be the one who owns it. But a client is never going to give you budget for 10 versions of the same thing. That's not a thing. The machines will do it with adaptability. The difference is the machines will do it looking at the consumer while active impressions are being delivered. So they're looking the consumers in the eye while it's happening and optimizing real time. That can be day to day. People just don't want to remove the incumbency of who's in the channel to make way for these new technologies. The same way that people use platforms like Jasper for copy iterations for social media, which you know very well.
Yeah.
It's like, look, how long does it take me to come up with iterations of copy? If it just pumps it out based on brand values in the brief, then I've now got more horsepower. I've outflanked my own ability. These are very easy ways, but I think there are some major ways in terms of deploying these for deeper real-time research that a traditional research company like Mintel takes 6 months to do. By the time it's published,
it's irrelevant.
It's 9 months dated. And it's fine, they do great reports, but when you need a real-time read on the consumer because of tariffs, I'm not gonna buy these foods at these grocery stores or these stores because it costs so much money. I'm gonna buy them at a C-store, I'm gonna buy it at a snack bar, I'm not gonna buy it anymore. Those are real-time adjustments being made. And I think what people have to look at it is, some of the great sports teams make great halftime adjustments. Well, it's an endless game.
They optimize in real time.
For which there's a halftime every week, and you need to be constantly making halftime adjustments. And people just aren't used to that world. And I think there are plenty of tools out there at disposal to do that. I mean, Opus Clip can tell you where you're getting attrition in your podcast.
Wow.
So then you can actually edit. This is what the Diary of the CEO does. He has a panel, 1,000 people, watches podcasts, uses the machines to measure where your attrition is, cuts that out of the podcast, optimizes the podcast, and he's going, I've watched him go 3 million to 10 million visitors because...
So he's literally leveraging like neuro-linguistic programming to optimize his content.
Right. Like every brand on the planet should be doing that with everything they put out as a story or narrative. Where's their attrition? Where are people falling off? Where they're not buying in? Where they're not believing us? Optimize it around what it is. So algorithmically, we understand how to win. Look, some of these things will work, but we have to start thinking about what we dreamt of doing that with human capacity is never going to happen. And how can we get the machine to now do that and close that gap down? Because that is going to be the competitive advantage, using machines to outflank the next person to gain market share. And I don't think we've arrived at, as someone said, if we're on LinkedIn, we think everybody's using AI. But once we get off LinkedIn, no one's using AI, and most of the people at these conferences speaking aren't hands-on keys to know what under the hood it's actually doing.
What the practitioner doing.
Right. Yeah. We've just moved away from this culture in which the people talking were makers. The engineers, the people who are wrenching, they're just talking. I'm like, but are you wrenching? And I think we have to get very serious about looking at the technology to wrench and improve all the things being built on top of to maximize it. And I think there's an undercurrent of players who are going to get there very fast. And then there are other people who hear this talk and they literally go bury their head in the sand and take a nap and like it's going to go away. Or you know what? If we all die together, I'm okay because I'm collateral damage with a group of people, within the industry of people, sector of people. But we have this mindset that sort of sat in about people not wanting to win because they were getting checks without winning. So to earn it now, to sustain, people don't understand. And I think that's why you see the sort of apathetic view of where this is all going. But when you start to look at AI in construction, like think about the business of construction. But imagine what it can do in terms of surveying the site before construction, much faster than the guy who's standing in the middle of the street with the little camera, and you're trying to hit him when you drive by. No, it's going to do that. It's going to do that with drones, and it's going to compute that and automatically reimagine development. Wow.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So you look at it in that industry, it's like, well, what's the problem in our industry? And all the companies are birthed in our industry. We don't use them.
Yeah.
But all the other sectors, they're going to be like, oh, we've never had this kind of weaponized intelligence.
Yeah, they haven't been able to leverage technology to the same degree as digital and media and a lot of these other places. Big theme of Possible has been the reemergence of marketers thinking about investing in brand again. Maybe that the performance funnel or the performance pendulum swung a little bit too far in measurability and being able to track down to the purchase funnel. And a lot of brands lost sight that they have to create something that people care about. They have to create a reason to grab an Oreo versus the store brand, especially in this economy. Can you talk a little bit about that? Do you have any thoughts on? I figured you would, but I think it's a good thing for the industry because in the AIification of creative, brand love and brand value is probably going to be more important than ever. Brand loyalty, and how do you foster that real connection to a brand that people love when you're only focused on moving purchase funnel? Then right. I think that's going to be maybe an interesting. Well, also just the idea that that's something that AI can't quite do yet, is create brand love. So.
Yeah. No. Well, I mean, look, that's the thing that sentient beings can do. That's the value prop of human nature. Look, the greatest existential threat to humanity is human laziness. You get lazy enough, the machines will come for you. That's just why they're coming, and they're coming so fast.
Yeah.
But brand is everything. Brand sets the frame. Now, the reason we have Jordan 1s, Louis Vuitton, Ferrari, Lamborghini, intentionality in the branding all the way through the entire value chain of the company. You can't work there unless you have to understand the history, the why behind the stitch pattern, the monogram, the lettering, the colors, the sourcing, the shape of the mirror, the arrow. All the innovation tracks from a lineage all the way back to the beginning and is pulled all the way through 75 years, 100 years through. This is why these companies celebrate what they've created. And
artistry and
design was always part of branding and brand identity. And I'm a huge brand identity person. So when I look at it, like brand essentially is everything. We're entering a world where membership is going to be the ultimate social class. Everything's a membership. You want to get razors is a membership. Any new AI tool, membership. Everything's a membership. Everything is a subscription. Because the math is figured out that the biggest moneymaker is people who just are unwilling to defect and cancel.
Sure. Yeah.
So we learned that from email marketing days. So
or 10,000 streaming subscriptions.
Right.
Yeah.
So with come membership comes identity to the brand. And they talk about because we're not as tied to the old social constructs. A lot of people don't go to church as much as used to. People don't live near their family. Everybody's moved away. So their new religion is Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles, Rangers. So we're looking for other forms of membership because that's how we operate as humans. But the things that used to ground our membership, we've lost sight of or lost touch with. So the idea of performance being too swung, the ones who build ultimate brand power don't have to do performance. The performance is in the brand identities. So it sells itself. It speaks for itself. It sets the frame for itself. We want to be part of that community. It's part of our identity. It's well built. And that's what people forgot. They didn't want to do the work. Branding is work. They always say, like, you got to choose your heart. Like, being overweight is hard. Being in shape is hard. Choose your heart.
Sure. Yeah.
So branding is hard. Performance failing you is hard. Choose your heart. So I think people just need to build brands. The problem with ad tech is it does a crappy job building brands. First of all, a lot of names are wonky and funky, but okay. And then they do such a poor job building a brand that when times get tough, they don't have a brand to stand on, and they're just trying to sell.
Yeah.
The ones who are bedrocks built the right brand. It's like people talk about using a trading desk.
Yeah, I was just thinking of the trading desk in my mind too, and I think Trading Desk also won the DSP wars because they had the best user experience.
Yes, and they had the best name.
Yeah, and
like when you're the nomenclature.
Yeah, right.
Like it's very easy.
But it also felt as easy as buying ads on Facebook or Google. Like the user experience was easy enough for a 21-year-old media buyer to be like, this is simple and easy to understand, and it's sleek.
That and when you become the synonym to the behavior. So people say, oh, do you search? No, I Google.
Yeah.
I do. That means I do a different kind of search.
DocuSign this for me.
Yeah, I do a different kind of search. You just regular search. I Google. You know what I'm saying? So that becomes the upshot. That's a brand play. I mean, when you become part of the modern nomenclature, and I think a lot of brands lost sight of becoming part of the nomenclature because they chose what procurement wanted, cheap and efficient. Well, look, you get it three ways. You get three options as a business: good, fast, and cheap. But you only get to pick two. And a lot of people didn't pick good. They just wanted fast and cheap. And like, well, now you're struggling. That's why Stackline reports that every commerce week, over half brands are in decline. Well, programmatic was so amazing. Why is half? Everybody should have this kind of growth. And instead, most of them don't. It's like a race to a zero sum for which the outcome isn't intentional enough or clear enough. So all they know is to keep rinsing, repeating, and doing the same thing. And a lot of it has to do with human nature. Human nature loves to do what it did yesterday, and what's most popular. So you watch a lot of people buy what they bought yesterday and buy what's most popular. It's like people still spend a lot of money up front. So it's like, yeah, but even they know where that business is going. So look, that level of kind of mediocrity and not trying to win has everything to do with automation coming in to fix it and clean it up. It's like, okay, well, you didn't want it anyway. You were kind of mailing it in. We'll take it. The machine will take it. And he's not going to complain. And he has no emotions about it. It's not a big deal. And I think that's where people are realizing it was always about building an unstoppable market force. And that starts with the brand resonance, brand attributes, brand identity. And a North Star is probably bigger than the company. The companies that have amazing brands, their North Star is bigger than themselves.
Yeah, they have a purpose.
And it's very, very clear just with the intentionality of how they speak about it. And it comes all the way down into the last details, why people know the fakes. Look, oh, that's not a real Louis. Louis would never make a handle on a buckle like that. Exactly. But we don't have that same level of craftsmanship in the technology set. That company would never do that. They would never do that. It's like a friend of mine would always tell me, Albert, you can delete that. Apple will never text you. Apple will never email you. You know what I'm saying? You're like, you're right, they wouldn't. Yeah. So anything that hits your phone like that, that's clickbait material. Somebody's trying to get your ID. But I mean, all these things matter.
There's user behavior that a brand establishes with you.
And I don't think people are looking and understanding that smart brands have signals. They have a voice and they have an imprint of identity. It's why brands start spending money on voice branding. You hear these
Sonic.
Sonic.
Yeah.
Because they're like, we want to own that identity as a mark. That's us. If you don't hear that mark, it doesn't matter what you saw. That's not us.
Well, especially now with AI agents being built into everything that are conversational, that Sonic brand is now more important than ever, right?
Yes.
Because now, I used to start 100% of my ideas on Google. Now I start 50% on Google and 50% on ChatGPT.
Right.
And I wasn't a big voice guy before ChatGPT. I hated talking to my Alexa. I was like, Siri shit the bed a long time ago. And I'm an Apple guy through and through, but like Siri was so worthless. It was like I'm not. 100%. And how did they? That's a whole another podcast. But yeah, now like ChatGPT is conversational. It's fun to use in that way. So voice and Sonic is now a really important aspect of the brand identity.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think what people have never done enough of, and I've probably spent the last 5 years doing, is really studying human nature and why it does what it does. Why we buy the stuff we buy. Why we align the way we align. Because that's every gateway to consumption propensity that has to be mapped back up into. I think the biggest problem is people running campaigns with one profile as if we're all monoliths when there's 20 to 40 personas around any given brand, any given product. There's 20 different types of reasons or more as to why it's my it. And I think when I've watched political campaigns, people have gotten people to move one way or another because they hate that thing right there.
Yeah, they're like, single issue voters.
Yeah, I don't like that person, but I hate that. And that's enough for me to double click on that. The same thing happens with consumerism. Sometimes people buy just because the alternate choice they'll never choose. So what's the alternative? And I think what people aren't doing is understanding all the persona types that come into the frame as to why they want that membership and will subscribe. And I think there's been too many assumptions that it's one or two things when it's a series. The other thing is the plurality of identity. You may be one guy when it comes to how you pick out your hats.
Yeah.
But when you come to pick out your shoes, you may be a totally different guy. I'm looking at the print on it.
Yeah.
So I understand from a surf perspective what your channel is.
That's my identity.
Your ass got probably a skateboard back then, right? So I used to BMX back in the day.
Let's go.
But my identity in BMX versus cars is totally different.
Yeah, it's a different passion point.
Right. Yeah. I think what people don't understand is the plurality of identity means that people come into the frame in the categories which they consume very differently as different people, even in the same day. So I may walk into Target, read one persona, but now I gotta walk in the dollar store to get this, and I'm in a totally different frame because in Texas I'm in a dollar store. Like I understand the assignment in a dollar store. Don't go spend $1,000. You know what I'm saying?
You're getting party favors for your kid's birthday party for $1.
Right. I'm getting a deck of cards because we're gonna be game night. You know what I'm saying? Like I need some trinket games or something. Yeah. And I think that's the other thing that's missing in all the advancement is people haven't understood. It's now bringing to light the complexity, but no one's institutionalizing it. So it's still falling short. And a lot of people realize they're just not being talked to. What does happen is word of mouth. It brings people into the frame that the ad campaign and maybe the brand itself couldn't, but the trust can bring them into the frame. And I think people have long forgotten that trust is still the world's currency. So between world leaders is why we're in World War III already.
Right.
Global trade is built on some degree of trust. What we're seeing right now is the breaking of the trust that had been set up for people to benefit and a bit of a reorder and restructuring it. I always say that people want to go into the future with the same people. I was joking in a meeting with a media company. I'm like, you know why nobody's in the metaverse? Because you didn't take them. You own theme parks. But if you took us to the metaverse, we'd all be there at least once a week.
Yeah.
Since you aren't taking them, they're not going with those companies. They don't know who they are. They don't trust them.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I think that's the other thing that people need to start understanding, is that's a big part of the footprint, trust. How is that being factored in the ecosystem? And I think people forget that matters, even though they go home and do that very thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you ask somebody, hey, give me directions to where you work. I don't know. Well, how do you get there? I don't know. I just get in the car and drive. Okay, this guy.
Google Maps, right?
Right. Can't tell you how to get there, but I know I can get there. And they're like, okay, there's a lot of that in business. Like I know how I do it at home, but if you want me to show up and operationalize it for business, I can't even teach you.
Wow. Well, I think that's a good place to wrap up. Where can people find you, Albert?
Just find me on LinkedIn.
Let's go.
So back to my namesake. So been there. I think I got a 17-year anniversary.
Ooh, let's go. Let's go. All right, Albert Thompson, everybody. Let's go. Bye-bye.